Hey guys, welcome back to Spittin Dirt. I am your host Sky. I just want to take a second to thank you for tuning in to another episode. I'm sorry that it's been a little while since our last upload. Been very busy with work, and then of course got family at home. So last weekend the family and I went out to the lake. We thought we would plot out to where we're going to build our up and coming cabin, the size, exactly where we're going to put it on the lot. Get the right view of the lake. Currently, we are staying in our 28-foot holiday trailer that does have the super slide, so it is nice, but we figure having a cabin throughout the winter months will be a lot cozier than staying in the RV, which we have for multiple years. So we don't have an issue doing that now. It just would be nicer for the family and I to relax when we are going out during the winter months, and of course summer. So today's episode's an exciting episode. We're going to talk about, should you buy new or used? That's always a question that everyone crosses their mind when they're looking at a machine. Do they want to spend the now 20 to 30 grand on a new machine, or do they want to spend the possible 10 to 20 grand on a used machine? Now, of course, it all depends on the make, year, and model. Now, a lot of people do put aftermarket parts on the machine, so they figure that they can ask for more money because they invested those parts or accessories into the machine. So we're going to start with buying new. The big question is, can you afford it? Now, myself starting out, I couldn't afford new, so I went and purchased old. Now, if I could have afforded new, yeah, I probably would have went and bought a new machine. Now, I probably could have afforded the payments of a new machine, but at the time, I didn't feel it was right to have payments on a machine. I didn't think it was affordable at that time of my life. And that's a big question you want to ask yourself, is do you want to have payments for 5 years, or did you save up and you have some available cash to just dump on a machine? Well, then most likely you would be going out and buying new. Now, I have seen people go out, buy a new machine on payments, but the one thing they forgot to do, or they did and miscalculated, is with these payments, are they too high or are they just right? And by just right, I mean, can you afford the monthly payment and still afford to go out and ride? We forget sometimes on how much fuel costs to get to the trailhead in your vehicle and how much you're going to be riding. So how much does it cost for the fuel in the machine? So it's sad to see some people out there that buy a brand new machine on monthly payments, seeing that they can afford the payments, forget how much they actually want to ride, and then can't afford to go riding because they've got these higher payments. So please, when you're looking at buying a new machine, look at the big picture and make sure that you're not putting yourself in a tight situation. That's the last thing you want to do for yourself and for your family. So a lot of people go and buy a used machine, and this is why, so that they can spend less money, not have monthly payments, and actually go out and ride. Now, how do you know if you're choosing the right sale when buying used? Well, what type of machine are you looking to buy? Are you looking for a trail machine? Are you looking for a work machine? Or are you looking for a mud machine? As it seems like a lot of people are going that route nowadays, is it's all about the big bad mud machine to go out and hit the trails. Now, buying a used machine, a mud machine, isn't probably the best choice when buying used. Why? Well, think of what you're going to do with that machine through the trail and through the mud. Think of what it has been through if you were to go riding. So now think back and go, look at those machines and think about what that previous owner has been through when it's a specifically mud driven machine. Probably pretty beat up. Whether if they've put new parts in and etc. They've blown axles, they've broken A-arms, tie rods, ball joints. Yes, all those parts can be replaced, but the parts that haven't been replaced will have a lot of wear and tear. Now, do you want to be wrenching all the time on a machine that has had a lot of wear and tear from the previous owner? Myself, I do not. Now, my first used machine was a Honda 250R. Was it 250R or 450R? It's been so long I totally forget. Yes, it was a 2006 Honda TRX 450R. Bought it used. Don't remember exactly how much I paid, but at the time I felt it was a good price. I'm pretty sure it was around 2,500 Canadian. I drove a few hours to get this machine, and right away, now before I got the machine, they showed me that it was running, etc. I get to the location where we met, and this is, I believe, maybe it was a 5-hour drive. I was super excited. That's why I believe I drove that distance. I've seen other people drive the same distance or longer to get a machine, so I didn't think too much of it since I saw the machine running. Now you can see where the story is going. So I get to the location. The person that I'm buying the machine off of wasn't able to make it, so his brother is dropping off the machine or meeting with me with the machine. Well, the TRX 450 won't start. I tried all my tips and tricks that I knew from learning from machines growing up to get this thing started. Never owned a Honda 450 TRX. Not sure what's going on. I've already driven this far. Because it won't start, willing to drop a couple $100. So I take the machine. Well, the problems didn't just end there. Don't remember exactly what was wrong with the machine of why it didn't start, but did get it started. Had overheating issues, so there's jetting issues. And again, it just turned out to be not the machine for me. I grew up always wanting a race quad. Where I was riding most of the time wasn't really a race area. There was one spot, but the rest of the time it was a trail area, and you're always in and off the clutch. So it wasn't fun. But I was also always trying to figure out jetting heating issue. I'm sorry that my memory is a little gone. This is over 10 years ago, but again, it just wasn't a fun experience. So I figured, okay, I'll sell this ATV and I will purchase a 4x4 trail machine so that I can have more fun with friends and family. So I sold the machine, and at the time didn't want to wait on saving more money to spend more, so I sold the machine and used that same money to buy the next machine. Now, the next machine was another 06 actually, and it was a Polaris 500 high output 4x4 machine. Only drove 2 hours this time to see this one, and it was a farm machine. Now, people like to be sneaky sometimes, and it's sad to say that, but they do. So the photos that they send me were not the exact photos of the machine. The reason I say that is the left side, or what you could call the driver's side, headlight and grill was all cracked and beat up from hitting a tree. Well, again, drove this far. I knew it needed some brakes. Took it down the gravel road. Sorry about that. Seemed like it was running great, but there was definitely telltale signs of just to walk away and either save or find a different machine. So not just the stuff was being cracked, he literally just was using it again as I showed up. It wasn't just all washed and clean so I could look it over. He went and used it down the the field to get something or chase the cows or whatever. Anyways, as I pulled up, had to wait a few minutes. They show up on the quad. So it's now muddy. So I can't fully look over the rest of the machine to see how everything was maintained. Well, it turns out, long story short, it was 11. Spent a lot of money fixing the machine, from bearings to a fuel pump, electrical issue, replacing that headlight, stitching up the grill, etc., etc. Later on, the transmission ended up stripping a gear, so I had to tear that out. And it wasn't even actually that long of owning the machine. I owned the machine longer in it sitting in the garage being worked on than actually riding the machine, because the transmission stripped within the first couple months, and then winter hit, and I didn't have a garage where I was living, and it would, at minus 30 in the middle of winter, was not fun trying to heat a tarp garage and work on the transmission. So that spring, I was able to get it together, rebuilt the transmission, then figured out had a fuel pump issue. And again, there was telltale signs of what to look for when buying a used machine, but I didn't listen to those signs. So, things to look out for when buying a used machine. Are all the photos up to date to when you're physically looking up the machine? Or are they showing you photos from a year ago in the sales picture? Is there any damage that they did not state in the ad that they're in a way trying to hide, so that they are at least getting viewers of the machine? Is there any maintenance logs? There are riders out there that stay up to date on their maintenance of the machine, especially when they've purchased it new. If you're looking at buying a used machine and the person says that he bought it used, maybe it's not the right machine for you. Unless you're mechanically inclined and you're fine with possibly spending more money on the machine to do repairs and spending the time, then maybe it is the right machine. We're all different, and we all know what we're looking for. But again, is there any maintenance logs? If there is no maintenance logs, just check the air filter. How does the air filter look? Does it look like it's been replaced recently? Has it ever been cleaned out? Is it full of rat's nest and leaves? So that's been sitting for a long time in the bush, like out in the yard or something. Is it full of oil? Is it a very dirty air filter? Or is it somewhat clean, slightly used? Looks like the machine has at least been maintained with replacing the air filter every so many 100 kilometers. How does the unit look? Does it look beat up? Does it look like the nipples have been greased? Is it rusty all over the place? Grabbing the tops of the tires and giving them a wiggle towards the machine and towards you, do you hear clunking like the bearings are gone? There's a lot of different checks that can be quickly done while looking at a machine to tell how much maintenance has been performed by the previous owner and what parts are most likely going to need to be replaced, such as ball joints, tie rod ends. Are those moving, or are those nice and stiff? Are the tires moving, like the wheel bearings inside of the hubs need to be replaced? Are the brakes worn out? Do the brakes work? I know a lot of used machines out there, especially the older ones, you don't have rear brakes. Usually the rear brakes are the first thing to go, and unfortunately are always hard to get back working, especially on the old Honda Trikes and Honda TRX 300s. So just make sure when you're looking at the ads of the used machine, what have they listed? And if they're listing off a whole bunch of aftermarket parts, make sure you look at another machine that doesn't have the aftermarket parts. I bet you that other machine is $1,000 or more. The machine that doesn't have the aftermarket parts will be $1,000 to $2,000 cheaper than the machine with the aftermarket parts. And that's because owners out there feel that these aftermarket parts or accessories are making the machine worth more because they invested that money. Well, maybe those parts or accessories aren't your maybe those aren't accessories that you would put on the machine yourself. Maybe you're not interested in having them. Just because they put it on doesn't mean that the machine is worth more money. If you can, look for a machine that doesn't have all these accessories, save a couple bucks, because most likely the person that's selling the machine with all those accessories and parts isn't going to budge. So look for that machine that isn't all decked out, and you'll save some cash in your pocket. Back to the question at the beginning, buy used or new? Well, quick note, if you can afford it, or if you're saving, keep saving, and I would buy new. You then have your warranty with the dealership, whether it be 6 months, a year, you get the 3-year extended warranty, or there's some dealerships out there now providing 5 years warranty. If you're going to buy used, make sure you do your homework on the machine, see what issues people have had with that model of machine. While you're looking over the machine for sale, see if that issue has been repaired, or if that the previous owner had that issue. Look for maintenance logs by the owner. Check out different parts, seeing if they're loose, if they need to be repaired. Spend a lot of time researching and looking at the right machine for you. You will save yourself a lot of money if you just do the homework and take the time. I know it's exciting buying a new machine, whether if it's used or new and it's new to you. Take the time so that you can save yourself time later for riding, instead of, like myself, with the one machine that I spent more time working on it, and I call it the lemon for that reason, is I spent more time working on the thing than riding, and finally sold it for dirt cheap so that it was out of the garage, out of my sight, and I went on and bought a new machine, and it was on payments. Paid it off early, than spending the whole 5 years paying it off. But I did go and take the hit and got a good deal from a dealership. Still was able to ride, had a good time once the machine was paid off, then put a lot of money into upgrades. Recently put on arched A-arms all the way around, fender flares, etc. But I'll save that for another episode, because that is our overland build. I hope this episode has given you guys some ideas on what to look for when buying a used machine. Again, thank you for tuning into this episode, and we will see you next time at Spittin Dirt.